because only when you know your audience can you make the right content.
Power to Live More with Joe Dodds.
Welcome to the Power to Live More podcast, all about productivity, organisation, well-being, energy and resilience. I'm Jo Dodds, and I started this show to enable interesting people to share their stories about how they use their power to live more, and by that I mean to do the stuff that they want to do more than the stuff that they need to or should do. It's about creating a life for yourself where you have the energy, health and space to be happy and fulfilled, spending your time as you'd like, whether that be at work, home or somewhere else entirely. That's your choice.
Hello, my name is Ellie Dodds and I'm co-presenter, and today Jo's interviewing Amit Raj. Amit heard his friend and colleague Deepak Shukla on show number 95 and got in touch to see if he could join us too. He talks about outreach and networking on the show and did a good job of demonstrating that to us. Amit runs Amit Digital Marketing, an SEO agency that specialises in link building and digital PR. They work with a range of clients from across the globe. Back to the studio.
Today I'm interviewing Amit Raj of Amit Digital Marketing. Welcome, Amit. Thanks for joining me today.
No problem. Thanks for having me on the show.
Lovely. And I've just explained I'm dog sitting at the moment with a dog that I don't really know very well, and he's overly friendly. He's on my lap and he keeps licking the laptop. So I'm not quite sure how it's all going to go, but we'll see.
I'm sure we'll get there.
This is all that bit of living more, getting to do the things that we want to do.
Exactly.
I'm staying in a lovely cottage in Derbyshire, and part of my penance is to look after the dog. Lovely. So a bit about who you are, what you do, and where you do it.
Yeah, so as you said, I run a company called Amit Digital Marketing. Obviously, it's myself and a small remote team. So I have a small team that help me, and we specialise in SEO, but more specifically, we deal with link building for clients, and we work with clients across many industries, and they're all from different countries. So we've worked with businesses in the UK, the US, Australia, India. So we've worked with a whole range, but all specifically on link building. Which is, it's like the more creative part of SEO.
Right. Okay. And you're based in Glasgow. We've established. Do you work for them?
Well, I actually have like a small office. It's a co-working space. So I have like an individual office, but I kind of go between there and home. So, but really, it could be I could just do it at home or do it from cafes and stuff. But I like to have a base as well, just to keep the house less cluttered as well.
Yes, good point. Lovely. So, how did you get into doing this? You fall into the category of lots of my podcast guests in that you probably didn't grow up wanting to be a link builder. So how did this all come about for you?
Yeah, it's strange. So originally, I wasn't even in a technical job or role. So I was originally qualified as a pharmacist. So I used to work as a pharmacist, and that was back in 2008 when I qualified. I did that for quite a few years, but at the same time, I was delving in and out of internet marketing, and I was teaching myself things. I was building my own sites. I found I was really good at it, and then it was a long process, but I kind of went all in with SEO, and I wanted to learn more about SEO since 2013, 2014, and that's when around 2015 is when I took the agency a bit more seriously, and I've really been trying to build it up ever since then. But I was originally a science background, doing pharmacy. I've worked in the kind of the more industry side of things. I've worked in the community. I've done some stints in the NHS, so I've done all that. But my route to SEO was very, it wasn't the conventional route.
Oh, it sounds really, really interesting. And so what do you find interesting about it? Why? I mean, I suppose some of it is the scientific or the sort of mathematical nature of it, given what you've done in the past. But it is quite different to what you were intending to do. So, what attracted you to the particular industry?
Yeah, so I mean, my decision to do pharmacy really was more of there was a few reasons for it, but eventually it became. I kind of realised maybe it wasn't the right thing to do going for pharmacy at the time, even though it took me a while to realise that. So I went into SEO because I enjoyed it. I enjoyed the kind of just getting a kick out of seeing what I've created, bring in traffic and bring in, customers or sales or whatever it is I'm trying to do, or, affiliate sales, this kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
So then I thought, well, I'm really good at this, so why don't I kind of scale it up but do it for clients? Because I didn't really have a conventional business that I could try on. I started to do some work for other people, and I kind of took it from there. There's a mathematical nature of it, and there's the very technical nature of SEO. But I think what a lot of people forget is, and this is the part of SEO that a lot of people don't talk about, which is link building. And there are people, obviously there are people talking about link building, but they focus on the technical part of it, of getting links from other websites. But what they don't talk about is the creativity required to get those links.
Okay.
So it's almost like, trying to describe what link building is to other people. It's kind of like you're doing business development, or it's kind of like PR, in the sense that sometimes getting links from other people is not as simple as, you can't just go and paste it into somebody's website, or, it's very much a creative process. It's, talking to the right people, it's having the right angles, and I think that appealed to me. I think it was, okay, it had the technical part of it, but it was the creative part, and it was how the two are intertwined. Really, I felt like it suited me, and it was probably, it's a bit of a cliche, like, oh, it was meant to be, but I felt it was more in line with what I wanted. It was kind of matched my skill set, even though I didn't realise it previously. As I got into it, I realised actually I'm better at this than other things.
Mm-hmm. So from what you've told me so far, I presume you're not one of the spammy link builders. You're a professional networking one. So.
Exactly, because there's a lot of link builders. As you said, there's the spammy ones. It's the ones getting the, using software to build them, or these other techniques that or technically it's link building, but it's not really, it's not really what I think search engines like Google intended. I don't think they intended for people to do things like that. I think it was, it's the way that link building. I kind of follow like a philosophy of link building that was around in the 90s. Again, one of these things nobody talks about, but there's a guy called Eric Ward who he passed away some time ago, but he had an approach to link building that was around, and people were doing it before Google had even been created. So it's interesting because people focus so much on search engines, which, yes, I mean, search engines like Google it's very important in terms of bringing in traffic, but they kind of forget about, it's not about gaming the search engine. Right. It's not about, trying to trick it into give you traffic. It's, you have to work with it and do what they're looking for. And when you do that right, that's when you really do bring in a lot of traffic, and, you're doing things the right way, so to speak.
Lovely. So let's talk more about what it actually is then, because as you say, it's been around forever, and it's something that I think got sort of a lot of sort of PR, if you like, sort of 10 years ago, 5-10 years ago, when it was first really sort of popular, and people, I used to teach online marketing back then, and we used to talk about it, and people didn't know what it was, and they used to be quite interested, and they'd go out and do stuff with it, and then sort of social media came along, and there was the whole linking thing from that, but it was sort of talked about in a different way around I can't even think what the technical term was, the sort of the network that you were creating by having sort of links coming from everywhere.
Exactly. Yeah.
But then it all sort of it sort of went a bit quiet with all the different sort of black and white Google updates and so on. I think people got a bit cynical about it and thinking that it wasn't so important. But clearly, you make a business out of it, so it must still be really important. Tell us more about sort of the development of it, why you should do it, what it looks like, all that sort of thing.
Yeah, so as you said, with SEO, I think there's a lot of there's kind of like a bad side of it. Or not really a bad side. It's like there's the bits that people don't see or don't understand. And I think people misconstrue what it's actually about. And I think that's why there's a lot of people doing SEO, doing it I think people split it into two kind of camps. They say black hat SEO and white hat SEO.
Yes.
Black hat SEO essentially is just people doing it. They're trying to trick search engines into giving them traffic. So it's like making Google put them at the top for a term, even though the page is like just a load of rubbish and it's not going to be useful to anyone, when it just has the right keywords on it. There's stuff like this. So, and I think people see that, and it's actually and stuff like that actually doesn't work as much as it used to. I mean, it used to work probably 10 years ago, but stuff doing it the black hat way, the way of, the tricking the search engines into giving you traffic, it's very difficult to do. And I think it's now becoming very apparent with all the updates, with all these algorithm updates, and with Google figuring out what all these tricks people are using. That's why they're doing these algorithm updates. That's why and if you think about it, Google's like $1 billion company. So, their algorithm is becoming more switched on. It's basically like an artificial intelligence. So they can sense when somebody's trying to trick their search engine. So they're not stupid. But I think people have kind of they've not realised that they probably think, I think the term that gets bandied about is SEO is dead. I think everyone says SEO is dead through social media, but they don't realise it's these other techniques don't work. But it's almost like you have to go back to what people were doing, 15 years ago. Funnily enough, that's what's going to work now. So it's strange how things come about, but it's like, as we said, trying to do the way that Google was intending people to develop the website, to put good content on it, to build relationships with people, to get them to link to them, and doing it that way, and kind of doing it the way that Google kind of wants you to do it. I think that's what people have to get more switched on to, and that's kind of what people call it the white hat way. But I don't really use that term. I just kind of say it's the way that it's it's a natural way of doing SEO and link building.
Yes, yeah, exactly. It's interesting. It's something I've sort of said in recent years, that I've gone really retro with what I'm doing. I sort of used to teach a load of stuff, then I moved on and I do different things now, but I've come back to, because my membership site is about helping home-based coaches and consultants to have successful businesses as well as living more, then the marketing piece has come back into what I'm teaching. And actually I've done exactly what you've just said. I've thought actually it needs to be what we did all along at the beginning. And not some of these, as you say, some of the sort of shortcuts that people have tried to sort of put in place in the meantime. So it does feel like all the sort of basic sort of teachings from, as you say, 10, 15 years ago do seem even more relevant now than ever. So it's really good to hear that you're doing the same.
Exactly. It's actually, sorry, I'll kind of share a small story about the reason why. It was kind of like the reason I got into SEO in the first place, and it's kind of more testament to the fact that you can't use these shortcuts. So back in around 2014, myself and a partner tried to acquire an established business, an ACO business that was actually it was like an online, it was a website that was bringing in leads from the west coast of America. So it was the LA, Los Angeles area. It was established business. It was bringing in the leads and the income, and thought we're going to acquire it. And it was on one of these. It was through like an online business broker, so it was all legit. It had been checked out, verified by the admins. And what happened was, after we acquired it, we then realised that it started plummeting down the rankings, and essentially we were left with something that was worthless. And we spent, over, $11,000 on this business. And it turned out he'd used these black hat methods to rank it. And it was only becoming apparent then that it wasn't working. So he had it propped up there. And then when we bought it, it kind of tumbled down the rankings. And then we, even worse, we realised that he'd been, not through that business, but through another one, he'd actually been selling SEO to other people, to other businesses, and the same thing happened to them. But the worst thing was, obviously, they're running businesses. Yeah. So he really put a lot of people in a sticky situation. So ever since then, now that was kind of very early on in the SEO game for me. But that kind of made me more, first of all, it was very painful to lose that money. But, it's at the end of the day, I could still move on from it. It wasn't, I could still kind of get on with things. But then it kind of made me curious about, well, what exactly was he doing and why did it not work? Yeah. And then that's when I got into the other, the kind of the more natural way of doing SEO, and then figuring out, well, actually, had he just done it this way, he wouldn't have had those problems. So it's just a small story I wanted to share that I thought would give you a bit of insight. So that's another reason why I really feel passionate about doing SEO in this way, because I've seen it play out myself. So I know the pain that of other businesses I'm sure have gone through that. That process of doing SEO the wrong way.
Yeah, exactly. No, great story to share, and a really good example of what to be aware of, what to avoid. So, what about the sort of what we should be doing and what we shouldn't be doing then? So, when people are thinking about link building for their website and they're being sort of offered services by organisations, what should they be looking out for?
Yeah, so I think even with SEO in general, I think there's still you still have to do the foundation work. So I think before anyone starts link building, the first thing they have to think about is, do they have the basics done? So is the website, is the structure of it quite good? Is there a good, can you navigate through the site easily? Does it load fast? Do you know which keywords to target? And are they mentioned on the right pages? So I think all that foundational stuff still applies. And I think I always tell everybody that we work with, always make sure you've got that, sorted first. And, and it's not, and that part of SEO isn't, it's not rocket science. It would surprise you how a lot of people miss that bit out. So that's the first thing I would say. But I think where it changes and where people go wrong is after they've done the basics. Is then trying to, that's when they start getting into the kind of trying to trick the search engines kind of thing. Whereas we would say, look, at that point, that's when you would think about link building. And the best way to do link building, really, first of all, you have to make sure you've got the right content. And this kind of leads into something which is not even really about SEO, it's just about marketing in general, is knowing your audience. Because only when you know your audience can you make the right content. And you know that yourself. It's as soon as you've got the right content, that's what's going to draw people in. So I think knowing your audience, making sure you've got the right content that it solves pain points, content which makes the life easier. Maybe it's talking about something that's trending in that industry, whatever industry your business is in, these kind of things, or talking about things that maybe others aren't talking about. coming at them from a different angle. All these kind of things. This is the kind of thing you need to think about when you're doing content. So, and it can take any form. It can be a podcast. It can be videos. It could be articles. It's going to be dependent on the industry or the sector. At that point, that's when you think about link building, because link building will then be about finding out what other websites are your audience on, like where else are they reading articles? Are they reading another publication? Are they, is there some kind of, maybe there's a forum where they, that they are very active on. It's all these kind of things, and then it's trying to find decision makers at these websites or publications or newspapers, even depending on what it is, and trying to figure out, going to them with your content piece or with your site or whatever asset that you have, and saying, what do you think of this? Is there something that can be done here? Is this useful to your audience? And as long as you've got your audience, the what they call the avatar, and you've created content that really is useful to them, then that's when you start to see a lot of success when you're building links. Because if you've done that right, there shouldn't be a reason for them not to link to you.
No. Although one of the things, I get contacted regularly by people asking me about my podcast posts. So they're my show notes, and they say, oh, we noticed that you've recommended this on your this particular post. Can we interest you in sharing this on there as well? And I always write back and say, well, the podcast was my guest recommending resources. I can't just add extra resources into the page, sort of thing.
Exactly. And that's when that's obviously an example of somebody that isn't building links properly. Basically, they're doing outreach, they're trying to build links, but as you said, they've not thought about the fact that, hang on, that's for a podcast and that's actually the guest. So they should have thought of that. That should already been, perhaps the approach would have been better if it was a blog post or something like that. But again, that's, as you rightly said, that's somebody doing link building but not thinking about that. And that's probably, sometimes this does happen, people taking an automated approach to link building, and maybe kind of blasting a list of websites with an email and thinking, right, let's just see who responds. And again, it's getting into that, again, taking the creative part of link building out of it. I think that's probably what somebody's done there. And again, it's not through sheer numbers. Some approach like that may work, but we don't use that approach. I would always recommend somebody, the more personalised you are in your email, and the more you're, talking to the other person as if they're a human being, because we're all it's all about communication. So I think when you take a more personalised approach, your success rate is much higher, because you've taken the time out to look at what they're doing, and you've thought, well, hang on, how is this going to benefit them and their audience? And it's taken a different a different approach to it.
Yes, yeah. So how do you actually work with your clients? What's the sort of model in terms of, what you agree to do for them, what your day-to-day sort of work looks like?
Yeah, so any client we work with, we would always recommend before we work with them that they do the basic SEO stuff. So provided that's all done, and they've done all the basics, and they know the keywords, it's all on the right pages and this kind of thing, we would then, with a lot of the clients we work with, they have the content, or they need a bit of a hand in terms of developing a content strategy.
Yeah.
But generally, a lot of them do have somebody in-house, but, we'll work with them and we'll guide them on, first of all, the content they're producing. Do they have the right type of content? If they do, then good, we'll use that, but we'll always recommend, continue to produce content, and we'll guide them on that. The next stage will be, and we tend to do it on a monthly basis, is we'll then reach out to them for we'll reach out to a set number of people, say 200 people a month, from different, websites, and it's a very dynamic approach, because we'll look at the content they're producing, and then so we'll take the content piece, and then we'll think, right, who's going to be interested in this content? Who can we contact? And what kind of websites should we be reaching out to? Should we be reaching out to bloggers, or is there some kind of other industry influencers that we could be reaching out to? And we do that with whatever piece of content we need to prioritize, as long as we feel is good enough to build links to. And again, that's coming back to, as long as they've got the audience profile down, they know who their target audience is, and they've got the content in place, that's when link building it tends to work a lot better. So we'll kind of take that approach. It's very personalized according to what the content is. And we'll do that. It'll be the same thing. It'll basically be scaled up. So the more content they've got, we can always kind of extend our reach within reason as well.
Yes, yeah. And what does that mean for you in terms of what your days look like?
So, I'm lucky in that, over the past few years, I've built a team, because, one person doing this for one company, is fine. But as soon as I got to the stage of even just at the 2 or 3 client mark, one person can't do it themselves. So I reached that point where I was like, I have to hire people. I have to have people helping me. So I've got a small remote team. Some of them are overseas. There's a couple in the US, and they help me with client work. So a lot of my work is kind of delegating to the team and kind of getting stuck in as well. So whatever, depending on the task that's needed. So there's a lot of, we'll do a lot of email outreach. So, I'll be overseeing the team, making sure we're talking to the right people, that we're getting replies, making sure when we reply that we do it in a timely manner. We reply back. We'll negotiate with people if they say, we don't quite like that content piece, but have you got something else that talks about this? So it's all these different things that I'm basically at that stage where I'm delegating everything, but you're kind of there to support the team as well. Even though I'm the person that's leading them, you kind of have to support the team at the same time as well.
Yes, yeah. And have you got people that knew what they were doing when they joined you, or have you trained them to be able to deliver the service that you're wanting them to deliver?
Most of these guys actually, they were not. A lot of them have worked in data entry, or the 2 in the US were doing social media work. I put in, and I've developed over the past few years, good kind of training SOPs. I think SOPs for any business like this is essential. I think, at the start, if you put the training SOPs in, you'll have to kind of hold the hand a bit at the start. But I found that, their ability to do the work was, in a large part, it was due to the kind of processes I've put in place, and having those SOPs and having something for them to refer to. But at the same time, I give them freedom to kind of put their own personality into the outreach as well. And I think that really works. So we have a lot of structure in terms of SOPs, but I've got a bit of freedom for them as well, because it allows the personality to come through on the outreach, which I think really gets.
And I guess the standard operating
really good results.
Oh, sorry, I think the sound went then. I thought you'd finished. Yeah, and obviously the standard operating procedures or processes means that that you're sort of delivering a certain level of service to your customer, and then on top of that, as you say, you have the sort of personalised extra approach from the
exactly because I think while it's kind of like a creative process, I sometimes find if you give with a lot of creatives, if you give too much freedom, it's kind of like, well, where are the results? So at the same time, I think having those SOPs in place helps give a bit of structure as well. So yeah, but it's taken. Don't get me wrong, it's taken a few years to teething problems and all the rest of it to get it to this stage. But I think it's essential to have these kind of processes in place.
Yes, yeah, exactly. And so, from a personal point of view, managing the team, what sort of ways are you managing yourself? What sort of tools and apps are you using? How do you make sure you get done what you need to get done?
Yeah, so there's a few apps that we use quite a lot. So Google Sheets or Google Docs that's a big one for us. So we use that a lot, along with the Google Drive, because we've got a lot of documents for each client's project. So we'll need the Google Sheet to kind of keep track of what we're doing, who we're reaching out to, which ones look promising, if we have to follow up with people, all these kind of things. So using Google Sheets comes in really useful for that, for being able to keep track of all this. On top of that, I'll use something called Slack. Don't know if you hear it. It's like a chat app, and I think it's online. It's a website, but you can also access it on your phone as well. They've got an app, and I use this for communicating with the remote team and also communicating with the client as well. So I think that's really good. And obviously, with them being in, everybody in different time zones, sometimes having Slack is quite good as well, because you can keep track of, can have everything in different channels, and the good thing about having a remote team is, even if I'm asleep at the time, no doubt there'll be somebody else in the team that'll be awake and they'll be on Slack. So it's quite good having that. And probably lastly, I've got one that I started using for producing from my content, and it's one I use on my phone. It's Teleprompter Pro, and I use it because I put a lot of content on YouTube and stuff about link building and SEO. So I started using Teleprompter because I would find I was having to kind of sometimes memorizing notes isn't my strong point. So I started using this app, and it's really good for it's basically as it describes it, a teleprompter. So it's quite good because you can, if you say you're filming on your phone or on your tablet or something, you can bring this app up and it'll basically remind you of what to say. So that comes in really useful as well.
And so what? That's an app on your phone or your iPad, and then or your tablet, and that plays. So you're filming yourself from another device and using that as your prompter, like they do on telly.
You can do that, but you can do it from the same device as well, because it'll put the. It's hard to describe. It's almost like it puts the words on the side, so you can still see yourself, but at the same time you'll see the words come up as well on top of it. So it is really good. It is useful, and it's something that I found kind of for producing content comes in really useful. It's a time saver.
Yes, yeah. Oh, that's cool. Excellent. And so you talked about having an office at home, but also an office, a co-working space that you go to, and also perhaps going to coffee shops. Do you have any sort of shape, rhyme or reason for working in whichever at different times, or is it just what you fancy?
Yeah, I think it's kind of it gives me something different to do, and instead of being too kind of stuck in the house. That's another reason why I like using the co-working space. But on top of that, you get to see other people as well, and you kind of network with people that run other businesses, and I think it's good to do that. I think the coffee shops I tend to use a bit less now because I've got this space. But I think being able to network with other people is really good. Not even in terms of being able to, in terms of getting clients, but I think just getting tips from people, or just kind of seeing people day to day and this kind of thing. I think it's quite useful. So that's another reason why I've always kept this.
Yes, yeah. So that sort of work-life integration, especially as you've got people in different time zones, and you can work from home. How do you make sure that you're getting to live more as well as getting to do the business stuff?
Yeah, so I think part of it was part of the reason why I brought in a team as well. I think what it comes in useful for that, for allowing me to kind of to delegate more to the team and allow myself to allow me to step back from the business as well, because you do have to do that, and I think it's essential. I think the two teammates that I have that are in the US, they are kind of like part-time project managers, and they've taken a big load off me in terms of being able to do that. So by doing that, and I also like to have a routine. So I'll have set times when I'm like, right, that's it, I'll need to stop working. It'll be, sometimes I'll start later in the day, but in that case, I'm not going to work any more than, say, 6 hours. And then I'll put a stop to it, unless it's something I really want to do, or it's producing content or being on a podcast or this kind of thing. That kind of stuff I don't even really count as work, because I like doing it, but I try not to be too embedded in the business and doing a lot of the work. So I have a routine. I'll make sure I go to sleep, a reasonable time, and I get up. I always, and that's a big one, I think, being able to get up consistently and have a routine. I think that helps as well. Yes,
yeah. And are you one of these miracle morning, up at 3 o'clock in the morning people, or is it a late bird?
No. I think that was Deepak that was on the show a while back. I'm not quite as bad as that, but I think I tend to get up for at the most like 7 a.m. I think I aim for 7 a.m. Sometimes I'll get up a bit earlier than that, especially for when I'll make sure I work out at least 3 times a week. That's something I've stuck to for the past few years, and I don't deviate from that at all, and I think that helps. And the fact that you've been able to get a good night's sleep helps in other aspects as well, because you find that your diet is better because you're not as tired. And you get more out of your workout because you've slept more, and then as a result you sleep better, and it's all interlinked. And it's something I realised a long time ago, that I thought, even when I was a pharmacist, I mean, my diet was terrible, and I didn't sleep properly. But even though I worked in healthcare, but then you realise over time you really do need to look after yourself and sleep. I think sleep is a big one as well. I think that's an essential one, and people don't realise, maybe a lot of people don't realise that, but I certainly did myself.
Yes, yeah. It's interesting. I talk quite a lot about the sort of morning and evening thing, and listeners to the podcast will know that I'm a bit of a night owl, and I often stay up late working, and I get up late quite often. And it's interesting doing this dog sitting that I also have builders to contend with, so I have to be up by 7:30 every morning to let the builders in and take the dog for a walk as well. And I've been here 4 days so far, and it's interesting. I can't get myself to go to bed early enough to have enough sleep now, knowing that I've got to get up earlier than normal. And it's really interesting how your body just has its own...
It adapts.
Yeah, and it will adapt, and I will have to go to bed earlier, but I've got to consciously try and make that happen, because so far it hasn't. So what I'm doing naturally, obviously, is having less sleep, and I know that's not right. But it's funny, isn't it, how your brain knows it's not right, but your body hasn't quite caught up yet.
Exactly. I mean, I'm the same. There will be times where I've maybe not got as much sleep as as I should do, and it does happen. So I think if it's over a sustained period of time, I think that's when you get issues. You've not had much sleep, but I think now and again is fine, and I think the body, but as you said, it's like the body adapts as well. So so I agree. I try to go to sleep as early as possible, but sometimes it's not possible, is it?
No, yeah. So learning and improving, especially in the sort of digital space, that things change all the time. How do you make sure that you stay on top of everything?
Yeah, so I try and keep on top of kind of the latest SEO and search engine trends, and I'm lucky in that when I came into the SEO industry, I learned the ropes through other people, and looking at other training programs and this kind of thing. So I've got a lot of contacts in the SEO world and the marketing world. So, there's a few Facebook groups that I'm on, and you get to know, somebody will post something and say, there's been a Google update, and then everybody will kind of, be on top of it. So just by doing that, having that there, that keeps me up to date on things. But in terms of having books and this kind of thing, it's something that I've tried to. I used to do it a lot more, but I've tried to refrain from trying to just keep up to date on things that are not. As long as I don't overdo it, if you know what I mean. So I'll keep up to date on the latest SEO trends, and I'll from time to time I'll read up about general marketing stuff, but I try to minimise how much I do it, because then I find I'm not as productive if I'm reading up too much on different things. So that's just something that I've found myself. Having said that, though, I do listen to the Gary Vee's podcast. I listen to and because I really like his stuff, and obviously this podcast as well. This is a really good one. So I think. Having the contacts in the industry is really good, and now and again just keeping on top, just looking at other things outside of SEO. General marketing is something I look at as well.
Yeah. And so, last couple of questions. Firstly, what about on those days when it doesn't work so well, when it all goes horribly wrong? How do you deal with that? Yeah,
I mean, something that's something that does over the years. You get situations like that, and I've had instances, I won't lie, of previous years of a disagreement with the client, or we've got a clash of opinions or something like this. But I try not to kind of sweat the small stuff. So one thing that I found helped was we're very careful in terms of vetting clients and making sure we manage expectations. And and when we did that, we found that even though things don't always go right in SEO and link building, as long as your intention is right and you're following your process and you're doing things right, there isn't really much that can go wrong. So in a way, I know maybe that's it, I'm cheating around the question, but by doing that, by vetting the clients, making sure we kind of we're both on the same page, that we're focusing on the process and we're focusing on the end user and the audience. That I think that's a key thing as well. By doing that, we've been able to keep a lot of our clients, and some of these clients I've got now I've had for over 2 years. And while our agency isn't as big as others out there, when we're doing well, but we're not huge, we're not making $10 million a year or something like some big agencies. We don't churn through clients, so the clients we have, we've kept for a while. And I think by doing that, I think it shows. I don't. There's a lot of small things that can go wrong, but I tend not to worry about it because we think about the bigger picture as well.
Yeah. So sort of doing the things you can do to minimise the potential issues and then letting the rest go, I suppose.
Exactly. It's unfortunate. You're always going to, and especially when you're doing link building, you might have outreach that will go to somebody and they'll be like, oh no, this is rubbish. No, why did you email me? Things like that, which would annoy a lot of people, and they would probably think that's a really bad thing. But at the end of the day, there's always going to be somebody that gets annoyed by something you do. So things like that is like what I would class as small stuff. And as long as you've not really offended somebody, it's just somebody's, saying something like that, I think we don't sweat over it. We'll just say, look, what do we learn from this? How do we minimise that? And then, as long as we've done that, we've done our job, and we'll move through it.
Yes, yeah. And so lastly, what about those days when you get to live more? So that's where I talk about getting to do more of the things that you want to do and less of the stuff that you don't want to do. What do those days look like for you?
Yeah, so I mean, the past, like probably say couple of years especially, has been a bit of a whirlwind. So a lot of it is I've had those days, and a lot of it is related to work, but it's because I really enjoy getting results for clients and seeing things play out for them. So things like we had one client, and I was really psyched after this because I thought this is amazing. I mean, for some agencies it might not be a big deal, but for me I thought it was really big, and it was a big thing for the client. So we helped a client get, and we weren't really intending to do. I mean, this isn't really a core part of the link building process, but it's something that happened as a result of a link building. So we got them a speaking engagement on a Forbes summit that was happening in California. So that happened in November. And
Wow.
that, to be honest, was just as a result of an outreach email. All we did was send an email to the right person. Then after that, obviously there was a call. So actually, I was on the call, but somebody from the client side was there, kind of leading it. But so something like that, and that was huge. And that went ahead in November, and it's probably and also another thing that happened recently. There's actually a TV channel on. I don't know if you've heard of something called Roku. It's kind of like it's a bit like these things like Amazon Fire Stick and
Right.
these. So it's one called Roku, ROKU, and there's a bunch of TV channels on it, the usual things. But somebody just launched a TV channel. It's like a marketing channel. I pitched an idea to the guys running that. So, I've got some content that's being published there. So it's all these kind of small wins that are, that's kind of making me, or even things like, I mean, that's just a couple of examples. Then just day to day, like working with clients, I've worked with clients that are in what people would say are obscure industries, and they're like, oh, I don't know how that would work, how you would get results, but we managed to get them mentioned in the right magazine or in a newspaper even as a result of our outreach, not really intending to, but because we've gone at it with the right approach, we've got that result. So it's all these kind of intangible things that that I didn't even really need to get, but I got them anyway. I think that I think it's it's having those kind of wins that makes me think, oh, I'm really I'm making an impact. I think is what I'm trying to say. It's all these kind of things, and also not. And for me, it's big because even back when I was a pharmacist and I was doing the day job thing, and I'd always be kind of thinking about doing SEO or marketing or doing something else that I really enjoyed. But it was all about, worrying about, well, what does this person think, or what are they going to say, or, oh, I can't do this because, and I kind of would go through kind of thinking about what other people expected or what they were looking, or I was kind of looking for approval for things all the time. But it's kind of, part of it is, living more is not being restricted by that mindset and just trying different things. So, I think a lot of it is that as well. So that was a bit of a wishy-washy answer, but I think
no, I think, as you say, it's that those sort of moments where you realise that you've had extra impact, not just what you've sort of set out to do, but you've sort of exceeded expectations.
Exactly.
Yeah, and that you've got that sort of opportunity and flexibility to do that. So I don't suppose as a pharmacist there's lots of opportunities to exceed your customers' expectations.
Exactly. Well, that's the thing. You're restricted. Like, as a lot of day jobs, you're kind of restricted to your own role, and that's it. But it's good being able to do it.
For my local pharmacy, it would exceed my expectations if they didn't actually shut for lunch. But there you go. I always turn up at the wrong time. I always, literally, every time I go, even though I know that they're not open between 1 and 2, I always seem to turn up during that time.
That's strange, because when I was in pharmacy, it was like we were so busy that We didn't even get a chance to have lunch sometimes, so that's a big treat. That would be a luxury for me.
Well, thank you, Amit. It's been great interviewing you. Tell people how they can find out more about you and get in contact.
Yeah, so you can visit my website on amitdigitalmarketing.com. There'll probably be a link on the page. I've got loads of content on there about SEO and link building. It's all free, so anyone wants to learn about it, they can go on there, send an email to me. But there's loads of content on there about SEO and my approach and how I think it should be done. So it'd be useful stuff there if you want to check it out.
Brilliant. Thank you. Thanks for joining me.
No problem. Thanks for having me.
All this information is available in the show notes. If you go to powertolivemore.com / in this case 154, then you'll find them there. Now this week I just want to remind you about the importance of self-care. It's the theme in the membership site this month, so I'm thinking about it as part of that, but also I'm just thinking it's just so important at the moment in the current situation to think about ourselves and being kind to ourselves. There's so much going on, there's so many challenges mentally and physically. The idea of not leaving the house or only leaving the house for one bit of exercise a day and all that sort of thing all takes its toll on us. And we're thinking about starting homeschooling again next week and all those other challenges that are happening at the moment. I was reading a post on Facebook today where somebody was saying that there's people out there saying what new skill have you learnt in this period of time, or have you learnt a new language or whatever, because we've got all this extra time supposedly. And other people had responded and said, I don't really have lots of time. I'm spending lots of time cooking and trying to homeschool my children and trying to just get my head round what's happening and coping with the situation, and adding that pressure of having to learn something new or do something super impressive during this time is a step too far. And I think it's just really important for us to take the time to look after ourselves as well as everyone else and just do what is right at the time to get us through the situation. We're all in different places in terms of some people's businesses aren't operating at all now. Some people are working extra hard to ensure that they come out of this in a stronger position, and other people, not a lot has changed in terms of how their business is going, and so they're busy as well as trying to deal with all the extra challenges at home as well. So just take some time to think about how you can be kind to yourself, and if it all gets a bit too much, then just go and read a book or have a bath or go and sit in another room, just be quiet, have some meditation time or whatever it might be, whatever works for you in terms of giving yourself a bit of time away from a situation. So yeah, that's just the message for this week. It's all about self-care. I'm also reflecting that it's interesting, having done a podcast interview today where we did focus quite a lot on the current situation. It won't be published until the end of May, and we've just heard today that we've got another 3 weeks of lockdown, and we don't know what will happen after that. So I'm sort of thinking these podcasts are a bit out of sync now, because the podcasts that I'm publishing at the moment were recorded before the situation happened, and at some stage I guess we'll come out of it, and I'll still be publishing interviews with people that were done whilst we were in it. So please do bear with me. Maybe we'll be able to look back at it as being a bit of a sort of social sign of the times, and reframe the out-of-date podcast at that moment. But we'll see. As I say, the one I did today is going out at the end of May. I suspect not a lot will have changed at that stage, but we'll see. So the message for this week is about self-care. And the show notes again for the show are at powertolivemore.com /154. And we look forward to speaking to you next week.
Use your power to live more.